What's going on, everybody? This is Travis Witherspoon from Carter Cow Trading. Trade with Travis on YouTube. Hopefully everybody's doing very well, and this is your trade of the week. It's actually going to end up being on NAS100. Now, if you've been trading the NASDAQ or you've been trading the Dow or anything else like that, you know last week we ended up having a strong movement to the downside, and it's something that we have been talking about over the course of the last few weeks, where the market was in trade, where we ended up having time frame alignment probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and finally the market has started to be able to make movement. So what does that mean? For the people that have not got into it, this is your time to be able to possibly be able to get something out of this overall move, but you have to be patient in the way that you end up doing it. And we're going to end up explaining how you can be able to make money off of this overall pair. Now, let's talk about it and let's give a little bit of a backstory like always. First off, we have a lot of stuff that's going forward when it comes down to catalysts. We end up having a bad jobs report based off of what ended up happening last month. We end up having over 235,000 job sales that were actually started, and if you look at the overall number that it was expected to be 735. So that's one thing. We end up seeing that with economic news, retail sales were down, and a few other stuff that was actually down as well. So it's given us a lot of catalysts to be able to see that this market should take a little bit of a break from this all-time movement that it's been having since March. So like always, what we end up doing, we take a look at the weekly, we take a look at the daily, and then after that we take a look at the 2 hours, see if there's any type of trading opportunity. So let's go ahead and get into it. Taking a look at the overall weekly, what are we looking at from this overall pair? What we see is this market has been moving on this all-time movement since really the beginning of the pandemic, when the market was basically at 6,500, and since then has basically ended up pushing back up. Now, there's a D extension that's still out there at 16,079, so we can say 16,080, that has not been hit. But since then, what we do have is basically a inner trend line break when you look at it from a daily perspective. We don't have a fractal high yet because we have to have at least 2 candlesticks to the left and 2 candlesticks to the right of bearish movement. That's the reason why I think that this pair has the opportunity to really start making a little bit of a retracement, basically resetting the market. Obviously, because it is September, we'll probably end up seeing a little bit more reset of the market before we getting into November, December, and everything else. So that's the first thing that we end up paying attention to. So we're looking at this based off of the weekly. There has been a counter trend line break based off of the weekly. The daily was in the sell zone a few days ago, but it has not broken to the downside all the way yet to the buy zone. Typically, it's about 7 to 11 days where you end up seeing that the daily would go from the sell zone to the buy zone from this spot. Where's this market going to potentially fall down to? Well, if you go back and you just look at this price action, you can be able to say, okay, past resistance turn future support is right around 15,150. I do expect that the market's just going to move down from there. Now, that's just being able to look at price action. The next area where it could fall down to is 14,715, and then after that falls down a little bit more, it can fall all the way down to 13,900. Now, that's wishful thinking. Obviously, anytime that we look at any type of movement from the NASDAQ, anytime that we look at any movement from the US 30, we're talking about stocks. People are looking to be able to buy, not necessarily sell. So we know that the weekly and we know that the daily is down to the downside. So that gives us time frame alignment. Now, because we're in a stochastic no trade zone, that means that we have to look at this from a short-term perspective on being able to find entries. And if we go back and take a look at what's been happening over the 2 hour, we end up having a strong consolidation area of being able to get in. I actually end up getting into a sale right around at 15,680. And actually end up getting stopped out where the market ended up going to 15,709, and that was my luck. Go figure. Since then, the market has basically ended up falling down from that overall area and has broken support, but has not retested support at this particular point. That gives us the opportunity to see that maybe on Monday, maybe on Tuesday, that the market will start to possibly try to push back up. If it gives us more like a bearish flag or anything else like that, where we end up getting a little bit of a retracement, I think that we can be able to see that this market will probably try to retest the 15,560 area all the way up to the 15,626 area. If it does go back into this area and go back into this consolidation, I wouldn't panic and say that the market is fully bullish. I just think that there's an area where that could be a sell zone area. Plus, there was a previous area where we end up finding some support at previously. Finding some support at previously where you could find some resistance at as well. And so, here's the game plan. One, if you want to be able to trade this and you're just saying, okay, well, I see that the market, it's a 2 hours basically in the sell zone. We see that we could have continuous movement. This market has already completed the D extension from a short-term standpoint. What I mean by that is this: the market went from A to be went all the way up to the C, and then after that completed the extension right here at this particular point. The market has completely moved from there. It has finished that spot as of right now, but there has not been a fractal low. So over the course of the opening of the day, I do expect that the market will start to push back up just a little bit. We may end up seeing right around 150 to almost 200 pips of overall movement to the upside, and then after that, I will look at being able to sell once it gets down to that point. Once again, if you are a person that likes to be able to buy and sell, if you end up getting any type of fractal low, because we end up having this huge movement to the downside, typically what happens with the markets, especially indices, you will end up seeing a little bit of a push back up. That push may end up being strong, and it may end up giving you an opportunity to be able to scout the market while the market is going back up. But I will be very interested to see how this market reacts once it gets to the 15,560 area, all the way up to the 15,610 area. And that will be the area where I'll look at being able to sell all the way down to the next area where I think it's going to fall down to, which is going to end up being right around that 15,284 area, all the way down to the areas where we talked about before, 15,355, 15,150, and then after that, obviously down to the previous positions where we talked about before based off of the daily. If you like what we end up doing on for this, please make sure that you end up joining our overall mailing list. All you have to do is go to cartercowcapital.com/start here. Make sure that you end up signing up for one of our free webinars, and you end up getting this video. Like always, make sure that you end up planning your trade, trading your plan. I see everybody next week for the next trade of the week.